What's up, New York? Welcome to another episode of New York State of Sports, episode 66 here on IE Sports Radio, direct feed for all that is sports. And we have a great show planned for you on this Monday before Thanksgiving. But we, of course, talking about more losses. The Giants, I don't think they remembered that you're supposed to play football after the bye week because they got embarrassed by the Bucs players calling the team soft. How much is that indictment on Brian Daboll and Joe Schoen? And can they really last through this as they get set for a Thanksgiving matchup with the Cowboys that people might sleep over? Jets were on a bye, but that didn't mean they stopped making news. They fired their GM, Joe Douglas. Aaron Rodgers doesn't want to get scanned for injuries, and just the circus in Florham Park continues. The Knicks lose a tough one in Utah. Go 2-1 this week, but what does it really mean? The Nets get a nice win last night. Shout out to the Red Bulls. We'll talk about them advancing to the NL Eastern Conference Final as they defeat NYCFC in the Hudson River Playoff Derby. We'll talk Army Notre Dame as Army gets blown out. We'll talk a weird week for Rutgers. We'll talk a big matchup at the Dome this weekend with Syracuse and Miami. Shout out to some other local college football teams and a rough weekend for St. John out in the Bahamas as they end up losing 2 out of 3 games and kind of hurt their national standing. It's all that and much more coming up next on New York State of Sports, and we'll see you in just a minute. And, of course, welcome back to another episode of New York State of Sports. Ricky K with you, of course, hoping you and yours have a very happy Thanksgiving. I'm thankful for being here with, of course, friends and family and all that comes with that. But I'm thankful for you, the listener, as well. I've been doing this show for almost a year, and I'm thankful for the time I get to spend with all of you over the course, whether it's Mondays at noon, whether it was Thursdays at 2 when we were doing them, or the post-game shows. All those fun things. You guys have been awesome and a blast, and I enjoy hopefully bringing you more over the next year or so. Before we get into the fun stuff and talk about more bad football losses here in New York, which is too common, I want to remind you, of course, you can follow us on X, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, at IE Sports Radio. Subscribe to us on YouTube. We got shows going on almost every day, which is fantastic. Multiple shows at different times, which is really cool. If you missed any part of this show, of course, you can download the podcast on Apple, Spreaker, Spotify, all that fun stuff. Each show has its own page on IE Sports Radio. Just go to iesportsradio.com/New York State of Sports. You can find my show, all about me, my biography, all that fun stuff. You can follow us on X at NY State Sports IE. It's going to be where you can follow the show, or you can follow me on X at Rickinator555. So we'll take our first break. We will come back and we will talk about the Giants and their dismal effort against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And where does the franchise go from here? Because I'm trying to figure out where it goes, and I don't think any of you can figure that out either. But we'll talk about it together. Stay tuned here on New York State Sports, IE Sports Radio. We will see you in just a minute.
IE Sports Radio fans, this show is brought to you by Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky. Planet Jerky is the official jerky of the 2022 California League champion Lake Elsinore Storm, Single A affiliate of the San Diego Padres. This all brisket jerky has gluten-free options, contains no MSG, no sodium nitrate, is low in sugar, and high in protein. Go to their website at planetjerky.net and follow them on Instagram at Planet Jerky. Planet Jerky, the jerky that's on a whole other planet.
Hey there, IE Sports Radio fans. Be sure to check out our sponsor, Seal the Deal Wax Seals by Cecilia B. You just finished your very own wedding or baby shower invitations and you're looking for that extra special touch? Maybe you just wrote a letter to a relative or a friend and you want to add to their smile when they receive it. Then seal the deal with Cecilia's handmade sealing wax stamps for your invitations, letters, and gifts. You bring the deal, we'll bring the seal. You can find them on Instagram at sealthedeal_wax stamps and on Facebook, Seal the Deal Wax Seals.
For the last 10 years, IE Sports Radio has been bringing you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes, coaches, and other authorized media personnel to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. Make sure to follow us at IE Sports Radio on X, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube to keep up with the latest in sports and with all of our shows. Also, make sure to check out our daily updated website at iesportsradio.com. At iesportsradio.com, you can see our daily show schedule and check out all of our show pages with personal bios to learn a little bit more about each of our awesome hosts. In addition to our show pages, you can catch the IE Sports Radio blog, Hall of Fame, Fans of the Month page, and our merchandise shop including t-shirts, tank tops, caps, long sleeves, hoodies, and more. For now over a decade here at IE Sports Radio, we've continued to be by the fans, for the fans, and we thank you all for your support and for making IE Sports Radio your direct feed for all that is sports.
Of course, thanks to our sponsors, Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky. Some great flavors to maybe send some of your friends for the holidays. You got some holiday cards, need some sealing on your invitation. Seal the Deal Wax Seals and bring that to you. And of course, follow us here at IE Sports Radio. Check out the shop. Awesome merch. Great shows, as we mentioned earlier. Be sure to check out all today. Again, feel free to send some comments here on YouTube. Everybody from Chicago, Mr. Adam Karnick is in the house. Welcome, Adam, to the show. So let's talk Giants. A 30-7 loss to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers yesterday at MetLife Stadium. And this game was just dreadful to watch. And I feel bad for the people that were even at this game because really they're looking at a bad product. Yesterday, the Giants got out-yarded 450 to 245. The Giants only ran 4 plays in Tampa territory in the first half. Meanwhile, the Bucs had 4 scoring drives out of their 5 drives in the first half. They had an 8-minute drive to open the game that led to a score. Baker Mayfield was doing everything he possibly could, including the Tommy DeVito gesture in the end zone at the end of the first half. And even when the Giants got something going in the third quarter, they do the direct snap to Tyrone Tracy, who fumbles on the 5-yard line. And that was it. There's just nothing there right now at this football team that makes you want to turn on the television and watch them. And after Daniel Jones got released earlier this week, the quarterback isn't the excuse anymore. Tommy DeVito yesterday, 21 of 31, 189. Didn't get an interception, but got sacked 4 times. He's not the answer, and the players in the locker room know he's not the answer. And it's not that Daniel Jones was the guy. Like, we all know Daniel Jones isn't very good. But it's the fact that, like, the Giant players see in that locker room that you're going right from a first string to a third string, or you're just putting Daniel Jones the 4th string guy. Everybody knew, locker room and outside the locker room, that was a business decision that the Giants released Daniel Jones so they wouldn't have to pay the injury guarantee. So the players, some of them, made a business decision and decided not to give 100% yesterday. And you heard so many different players comment yesterday. It was Dexter Lawrence saying they played soft. Malik Neighbors talking about questioning the play calling. Jermaine Illuminor, the offensive lineman, said he personally didn't think that people were giving 100%. And that's unacceptable, because you watch what the Giants did yesterday. You watch other teams around the league. Tennessee winning in Houston. Carolina taking the Chiefs to the final minute in regulation. Even Vegas. I mean, Vegas was in that game with Denver up until mid-4th quarter, and Gardner Minshew gets hurt. Like, we've seen these bad teams put good efforts up. Where's the Giants in that? Nobody's asking you to win, because if you're someone out there that wants to tank and wants to get Shedeur Sanders or Cam Ward, look, the Giants are right now the 2nd pick in the draft. They would get whichever quarterback they would want, barring somebody trading up to number 1 with Jacksonville. But can you get a competitive product on the field? Like, I think against Tampa, who is not a very good football. I mean, they're good, but they're not fantastic. They're a beatable team. And that game should not have been as blown out as it was yesterday. So you get into, we talk about these quotes. Has Brian Daboll lost the locker room? I think he has. Between those comments, and then you had, I think it was Lawrence and Brian Burns being asked, is the coaching staff still message getting across? And the answer they said was, I think so. Not yes, not no, and I think so. And that's probably the worst thing when you ask somebody a question and they go, I think so, maybe, possibly. When you're this bad of a team, you want definitives. And right now they don't have that. And I don't think Daboll has an answer to it. I don't think Joe Schoen, the GM, has an answer to it. And when you lose the locker room, you never get it back. And this has become a nightmare for the Giants this season. You had Malik Neighbors yesterday. Doesn't get a target in the first half. And then gets the first 3 targets in the second half. Has a decent game if you look at the stat sheet. But you had Neighbors ask Dabes about the play calling. When the coach took on the play calling, he knew he was on thin ice and wanted to take full advantage of it. And the play calling has been worse this year than it's been the last 2. That's not the quarterback. They got rid of the scapegoat. Scapegoat's gone. Now it's on these 2. And you look at the moves Joe Schoen has made, this one included, because Daniel Jones is going to find a new team after 4 o'clock today. He's going to, be in a much better situation to be successful. You look at what Adam asked in the comments here. What's worse, seeing the Daniel Jones experiment fail so spectacularly, or seeing Saquon have a career year in Philly? I think those 2, Adam, is an interesting question, because I think people knew that Daniel Jones was not this fantastic quarterback even when they drafted him. So it's not as if the experiment has failed. They did make the playoffs. If you're looking at the totality of it, it's different. But the decision to keep Jones and not try to find ways to keep Barkley years ago, not this past year, years ago, looms large over this franchise. Because Saquon was the lifeblood of that team. You see it. Now, you could argue whether the Giants should have gave him the money that the Eagles gave him, and the answer where they are right now was no. But they never put that kind of talent around Saquon that the Eagles have. To watch Saquon last night run for 255 yards, 270-plus yard touchdowns, to me, he's the MVP of the league right now. And you let that guy go, not only to your rival, you let him go for nothing. For nothing. When they could have traded him last year and at least got something for him. You're looking at a situation with Xavier McKinney. Xavier McKinney leads the league in interceptions. The Giants haven't had an interception in 10 straight games. That's pathetic. When it's so easy in the league, I feel like, to get turnovers, to get quarterbacks throw interceptions, you can't get one. And it's not that Joe Shea didn't pay those guys, because we're clearly seeing the hard knock stuff is going to get this coach and this GM, I think, fired. You watch those decisions they made in real time, and it was awful. Because they chose not only to invest in running back and safety, which you could argue whether you should invest those positions at all, but they chose to invest in the offensive line. Where is their backup plan? The Luminors and Runyon, they got those guys. If people get hurt, like Andrew Thomas, you have no fail-safe to be a competitive team. You didn't put everything in the offensive line, and then you rely on the secondary with a bunch of rookies on it against guys like Mike Evans yesterday to actually do a good job, and they can't. So the GM, to me, has built a bad product. Now, it's up to the owner, and the owner deserves some blame too. John Mara is not scot-free in this. John Mara has built an organization of dysfunction when the Giants were used to be known for function. And the question is going to be with Mara, can he take more losses like that? And even though he doesn't want to be the guy that fires a head coach and GM every 2 or 3 years, which was the Giants had become, has this become too much damage to let go? And now we have to sit back and watch on Thanksgiving against the Dallas Cowboys on Fox 4:30 on Thursday. Giants have actually lost their last 4 Thanksgiving games dating back to the 1980s. Dallas right now is favored by 3.5. We talk about bad teams showing good effort. Look at Dallas yesterday. Going into Washington, getting a win on the road, special teams making plays. Find me a spot where the Giants, even without Dak there, are going to beat the Cowboys, especially now that Micah Parsons is back. You think Tommy DeVito is going to have a tough time getting away from Micah Parsons. But right now, that spread continues to go up. I think it was Dallas by 2 last night. It's now Dallas by 4. And it's only going to get higher. Because I can't see an argument that the Giants are going to go into Dallas on a short week after showing no effort yesterday and picking up a win. Even though it would be great for them to actually get a win in Dallas, get that monkey off their back and actually play a decent game. Where are you going to get? Who's guarding CeeDee Lamb on this team? Lamb against the Giants earlier this year, 7 catches, 98 yards, a touchdown, 8 targets. He's going to have at least double-digit targets in this football game. And look, it's in a laughingstock of an organization right now. It makes the Jets actually look functional, which they aren't. And John Mara has to really ask himself, if he's going to get rid of Joe Shea, then and Daboll, will he go back outside the organization again? Because he made that decision to not stay internal with hires. Or is he going to say, you know what, I was right, you shouldn't have let Saquon go, and I'm going to take over and make moves that I feel is the best thing? We don't know. But even if the Giants lose out, which they just might, they need to have better effort than that. I think that's the low bar, because yesterday was abysmal. They didn't do anything right. They were terrible. And really, I feel bad for the leaders in that locker room, because they saw through that decision that the front office made with Jones. Not that Jones isn't awful, because he is right now. But the Giants essentially punted on the rest of the year, and the players saw that. And you can't get that back when you make that decision. Speaking of a team that has made a decision, the Jets, while you were on your bye week, saw that Joe Douglas is no longer the general manager, which is not a surprise because, look, Joe Douglas is going to get fired at the end of the year anyway. And you saw the report in The Athletic. Diana Rossini and Zach Rosenblatt have done a great job getting these scoops. It said that Woody Johnson was already looking at GM candidates. This was reported today by Jonathan Jones of CBS that they hired a consultant firm led by Mike Tannenbaum. They're the 33rd team to help with that search, but they want to make a move. And it was funny, Jay Glazer reported yesterday that Woody Johnson flew out on a helicopter, and Joe Douglas joked about how it's the last time he's going to see Jeff Ulbrich, and it actually was. Joe Douglas is a tenure with the Jets. Look, he made some really bad decisions. He's had some bad drafts. He's talking about a guy that was known for finding offensive line talent. He drafts Mekhi Becton, and Mekhi Becton was a bust. Not to mention they couldn't get the quarterback right between Zach Wilson and between Aaron Rodgers. There was just no track record of winning. And you look at some of the picks they've made. Denzel Mims comes to mind. That guy was supposed to be great at wide receiver. That turned out to be absolutely nothing. And there's just not enough there to justify Joe Douglas sticking around. The head coach is gone. The GM is gone. And to say the Giants are more dysfunctional than the Jets, I think is true because at least the Jets know this offseason they're getting a new head coach and they're getting a new GM. Who that will be, we'll find out, and we'll see what he wants to do. Or Christopher Johnson, depending on what happens with the whole ambassador situation. But there's a lot of dysfunction right now with the Jets. We saw the report that Woody wanted to bench Aaron Rodgers after the Broncos game. You saw the report that there was talk the Jets were trying to get Jerry Jeudy and give Bowen Lazard, which the Lazard signing is bad by Douglas because Lazard has done nothing. And you saw the report yesterday by Ian Rappaport that Aaron Rodgers refuses to have scans for his injuries. And that's not good enough. And that's not good enough because you look at this quarterback that has, I get he doesn't want to find out the totality of his injuries. But you're doing a disservice to the football team when you do that. And now you wonder if the Jets will go down the same Giants route and just put Aaron Rodgers on Phantom IR or something like that and play Tyrod Taylor the rest of the year. Find out if Tyrod Taylor could be your bridge quarterback in 2025 while you search for another quarterback. Because the Jets right now are in no man's land. They're picking 7th in the draft right now. You're not going to get the quarterback you want with the 7th pick. You may get it in the early 2nd round. Maybe you find a Quinn Ewers or a Jalen Miller. Jalen Miller, by the way, looked awful against Oklahoma Saturday. You can't watch that game and think, yeah, I want that guy as my quarterback. Right now, it's just there's nothing else for the Jets except every day there's something new that comes out about what Woody Johnson is want. If Woody Johnson's mad at Aaron Rodgers, if Woody Johnson's mad at this. The off-the-field news with the Jets is more than the on-the-field news for the Jets. That's a problem. And their next game, they'll take on Seattle. We talked about it a little bit last week. Seahawks actually are in first place in the NFC West right now. And you talk about another former Jet, Geno Smith, coming into New Jersey this week. And Geno actually has done a good job completing passes, taking what the defense gives him, stuff he didn't do with the Jets. Like you've seen Sam Darnold come into this building. You've seen Geno Smith come into this building. And you're watching those two guys have success outside of New York. Because they're in better situations. These situations, as we go into January and we look at GM candidates and head coach candidates, these jobs right now are not desirable. Maybe the Giants more so if Daboll goes because they're going to get either Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders in all likelihood. And at least you have a rookie quarterback to pair with. You don't know what this Jet situation looks like. Nobody does. And that's the weird aspect of it. Yes, I see Larry's here, and Adam and Larry are having fun at the Jets and Giants lack of organizational control because it's there, it's bad, it's everything dismal, and it hurts me when we do the picks in our IE Sports Radio because I have to pick the Jets and the Giants every week, and most of the time they lose. So I never seem to get that good football pick-em week because of that, but that's just besides the point. So we'll take our first break. We'll come back. We'll talk a little basketball. Knicks had a rough one out on the West Coast this past weekend. Nets actually had some success, and we'll get an update on Juan Soto and what's going on in that sweepstakes. So listen to New York State of Sports and IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. We'll be right back after this.
Hey, Cleveland and Columbus sports fans. This is Jen D, host of the Show of the Land on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. If you love Cleveland and Columbus sports like I do, be sure to tune in live to the Show of the Land on Tuesdays, where we will cover the Cleveland Browns, Cavs, Guardians, and Monsters. We will also talk about the Columbus Blue Jackets, Crew, Fury, and of course, the Ohio State Buckeyes. We'll also cover other colleges in the area like Akron, Kent State, Cleveland State, Mount Union, John Carroll, Baldwin Wallace, Youngstown State, among others. So like I said, if you love Cleveland and Columbus sports like I do, be sure to tune in Tuesdays to the Show of the Land with Jen D on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hockey fans, I'm Adam Kernick.
And I'm Zach Puplis.
Together, we are the newest version of Hockey Talk on IE Sports Radio, The Neutral Zone.
Zone.
We love hockey, but we also know it's not everyone's first sport. So we want to make this show as much for new fans as for the diehards.
Whether you can name all the Swedes on the 08 Red Wings Stanley Cup team, or if you can't tell if Varlamov is a goalie or the latest trendy vodka, we're here to help. With facts, figures, and outrageous fans, we bring you all the hard-hitting hockey news you can handle, while still keeping it fun and on the rails. Well, mostly.
So tune in every week as we go around the hockey world, from college to Canada, the minors and the majors, and everywhere in between.
So bring your cellies,
And your one-timers,
you wicked wristas.
and be sure to protect your five-hole.
Catch the Neutral Zone every week on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
We promise not to pick on the Arizona Coyotes every episode.
And of course, welcome back to New York State of Sports here on IE Sports Radio, direct feed for all that is sports. We'll talk some hockey in a little bit during this segment as we dive into some of the basketball and hockey teams here. Ralph is also here. Happy Thanksgiving to you, man. Glad to hear from you. So before we move on to that, I was thinking about this. Who wins more games the rest of the year, the Giants or the Jets? And we'll dive through the schedule. Giants play Dallas, at Dallas, home to New Orleans, home to the Ravens, at the Falcons, home to the Colts, at the Eagles. Meanwhile, you go to the Jets. They're home to Seattle this week. Right now, Seattle's favored by 2. They are at Miami, at Jacksonville, home to the Rams, at the Bills, home to the Dolphins. Dolphins are red hot. I mean, maybe the Jaguars the Jets get. Maybe they get lucky if the Rams slip up somewhere, but I think both these teams maybe get 1 to 2 wins at most. So that's a tough one. Let me know what you think here in the chat. We'll talk some basketball. Knicks, interesting week for the Knicks. They both teams, New York and the Knicks and the Nets, are on their West Coast trips because of all the basketball tournaments going on here locally, as well as some of the hockey teams now being at home. Knicks are 9-7 through the first 16. Isn't all doom and gloom. They blew out the Wizards last Monday, which was expected. They put up 138 on Phoenix. Now, Cat and Brunson had 70 points between them. Suns didn't have their stars. That's kind of to be expected. So Knicks go to Utah Saturday, 5 o'clock game, weird start time. Knicks don't really historically play well in Utah, but Utah's one of the worst teams in the league. And they end up losing 121-106. Jazz actually with a better team on the rebounding wise, 52-40. Lauri Markkanen has an impressive game, 34 points, 11 of 15 shooting, 9 rebounds. Colin Sexton hit 4 threes in the fourth quarter. It's one of those losses that you don't like, but you're not going to rip them because it's so early in the year. But Mikal Bridges was terrible. He was 2 for 15, made only 1 3, and the question on Bridges was his shot select, like his three-point motion going in. It's not doom and gloom for the Knicks, as I said. You're going to lose games on the West Coast. It's expected. It's tough to win on the road. But Jericho Sims had a plus 19 Saturday, and Cat had a minus 34. So maybe it means you get more minutes from Jericho Sims. We'll see. But again, the Knicks are right where they need to be. They're 9-7 through the first 16. They could use some help defensively. But as we said last week, and we keep updating, there's only 4 teams in the East with a winning record. Knicks are one of them. Miami's at 500. Milwaukee has bounced back into the game under. But the fact that, again, 4 teams are over. Orlando's the 3 seed right now in the East at 11-7 when the Knicks will play them next week. There isn't much panic, I think, right now. But you need to see more consistency, at least in the defensive end. They're going to score points. This Knicks team is too good not to score points. It's just about being better on the defensive end. Utah shot 19 of 34 from three-point range on Saturday. That cannot happen. You're getting production in the Knicks, at least from campaign, which has been good. OG had a great game Saturday. He had 7 threes. You're seeing more of the offensive side of OG, which is a good thing. But you're not going to get much from the bench. And as a whole, they shot only 39% as a team and still put up 106 points. That's really the nature of the NBA, is you're going to score 100 just even on an off night. So update next for the Knicks, they have the Nuggets tonight in Denver. So a matchup of Cat and Jokic. Denver's favored by 4.5 right now. Knicks are in Dallas on Wednesday. Right now looking like no Luka, and Dallas has not been good in the fourth quarters of games. Knicks will continue NBA Cup play Friday, Black Friday, noon Eastern against Charlotte. They'll try to go to 3-0 in group play there. And then they will host the Pelicans on Sunday before the big matchup a week from Tuesday with the Magic to wrap up group play in the Emirates Cup. Meanwhile, on the other side, great win last night for the Brooklyn Nets. And I saw on ESPN this morning an interesting stat. The Nets have won 2 games this season where they have been a double-digit underdog. So Jordi Fernandez's club has shown some really good fight in a lot of these games. Of course, last night going back to Sacramento, where he was an assistant. So a homecoming for him. And I was very impressed with a guy like Cam Thomas, who played well, 34 points. Nets were tied going into the fourth quarter. Thomas delivered in a big way, 11 of 22 shooting, 4 of 10 from 3. Nets as a whole made 19 threes in this game. They held Sacramento just 9 for 25 from 3, so a good effort on the defensive end. Noah Clowney had 18 off the bench. Shaq Milton had 10 points off the bench. But the guy I want to highlight a little bit is Cam Johnson. We talked about Cam Thomas and his ability to score, but Cam Johnson's done that as well. When you go back to the last couple of games earlier this week, he was a big part in that win over Charlotte in group play, 34 points. He had 37 against Philly. Nets, they'll let that game slip away. They had 19 turnovers. Sixers are terrible. They're 3-13. So the Nets, even though they were on the road, that's a tough one to lose. But Cam Johnson so far in the season, 19 points per game, is doing a pretty good job being that second scorer. And, of course, the Nets, when you look at last night, did not have Dennis Schroeder, who was out with a sore ankle. So good signs for Brooklyn. Right now, they're 7-10. They're playing very competitive basketball. They're out west this week. They will play Golden State tonight at 10 o'clock. Warriors are a 12.5-point favorite in that one. Nets are at Phoenix on Wednesday. And then they will host Orlando, which part of group. They'll actually host Orlando in back-to-back games, Friday and Sunday, with group play and NBA Cup being one of those games. Moving over to the NHL, And it's been a rough one for the New York Rangers, as we'll dive into them first. And overall, they've been okay. They haven't been fantastic. They're fourth in the Metro right now. That's how good the Metro has been. But they were out west, and they got a win over Vancouver. Did pretty good over there. And then the last two games, they lose to Calgary 3-2, where they get down early 2-0, try to fight back. Will Culley's been really good for the Rangers despite some injuries, and they get embarrassed Saturday by Edmonton. 2 goals by Connor McDavid. Oilers led 4-0 halfway through the second period. Jonathan Quick was in net, and Quick faced 21 shots in the first period. 21 shots in the first period. Their defense right now isn't good. Like, they've tried using Victor Mancini. They've tried using Zach Jones. Right now, their defense, there isn't really any to speak of. And you look at this Ranger team at this stage, they're making some moves. Chris Kreider is out tonight with upper body injury. Brett Berard, their 5th-round pick in 2020, is up. He's having a great year in the AHL. Trying to get some spark with the winger position. Matt Redby is back for tonight's game. But again, this is a Ranger team that needs to find answers and find them quick, because it's a very competitive conference. They boom or bust year for this group, and you wonder if they keep being as inconsistent, especially against some of these teams that are actually pretty good. Like, they play well against the bottom feeders, but when they go up against a team like Edmonton, they are not a good hockey team. I mean, think about the games you said have been litmus tests. Edmonton would have been one to get blown out. Washington, they lose. Florida, they lose. Those are games like you can beat up on the really awful teams, which is what they do pretty well, but you've got to find some consistency. And they start tonight against the Blues, a team that got rid of their coach, hired Jim Montgomery. You talk about a team that doesn't really go through coaches like they're recyclables. That's the Bruins. I mean, the Bruins fire their coaches, and another team usually hires them within a week. So something's wrong with Boston. But Rangers will be home to the Blues tonight. They're at the Hurricanes on Wednesday, who lead the Metro right now. They're at the Flyers on Friday, and then home to Montreal on Saturday. And then we'll be back here Monday. We'll preview Devils Rangers at the Garden. Devils have been really good lately. They're at 30 points right now. Some milestone wins for some goaltenders this week. Jake Allen picked up his 200th career win for the Devils on Saturday and a win over the Capitals. Jesper Bratt also had 2 goals in New Jersey's 4-2 win over the Hurricanes on Thursday. So Devils passing some good litmus tests, and they're scoring goals in bunches. And the Islanders, Ilya Sorokin gets his 100th win against the St. Louis Blues on Saturday. That was the last game that their coach had. But Kyle Palmieri, 2 goals in that one. A strong effort for the Islanders. Devils right now this week, they are home to Nashville tonight, home to St. Louis on Wednesday, at Detroit on Friday, and home to Washington on Saturday. And we'll pull up the Islanders schedule for you and what's going on this week. Islanders actually have a good run coming up. I think they get 7 of their next 10 games at home. Islanders are 21 points. They really need to start getting a run here. They get Detroit tonight. Red Wings, though, have been able to beat the Islanders a bunch this year. They are home to the Bruins on Wednesday, at the Capitals on Friday, and then home to the Sabres on Saturday. And then our final update before we go to another commercial, Juan Soto, the update, Buster Olney saying yesterday or over the weekend that teams will probably start giving offers to Juan Soto this week. There hasn't been a lot of action in terms of the baseball hot stove. The biggest news being this morning when John Heyman reported Yusei Kikuchi signed a 3-year, $63 million deal with the Angels. Now, that helps Sean Manaea and Luis Severino for sure. If you're looking at it from a pitching perspective, that Kikuchi's getting $21 million a year, which is basically the qualifying offer. So pitching is going to be at a premium. But, of course, Bob Nightingale reporting that the Mets seem to be in the driver's seat because they can offer more than anybody else. But the situation is very fluent. I don't think you'll see anything from Soto until maybe late next week. Remember, the winter meetings are December 8th through the 11th in Dallas. So I think Soto gets the offers this week, into next week, mulls them over, and then gets a decision by then. And then the market will start to get a little bit faster, and we'll have more baseball signings to talk about. So we'll take our last break. We'll come back. We'll talk some soccer. Red Bulls getting a big win over NYCFC. We'll talk college football. We'll talk college basketball as we wrap up episode 66. You're listening to New York State of Sports and IE Sports Radio, direct feed for all those sports. We will be right back for our final segment after this.
Hello, sports fans. It's me, your boy Larry B, and I want to walk you through the world of sports. No, not just the mainstream major TV deal type sports, although those are important too. But let me be your guide through your journey of all sports, from college to the pros, the minors, and everything in between. Each week, we are talking sports galore with true diehards just like you from a hardcore fan's perspective that's sure to quench your thirst around leagues you may know all too well and some you may even discover here. That's right, sports fans. If you love sports of all kinds, enjoy hearing amazing sports stories, and respect all sports because you know how difficult any of them can be to play or compete in, then this is your show. Join me, your boy Larry B, on the defining moment each week here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports, and let the sports come to you.
What's up, Pittsburgh? This is Ralph Calise, the host of the Injury Report on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Are you that passionate diehard Steelers, Penguins, Pirates, or just a Pittsburgh sports fan? Then please join me on the Injury Report every Tuesday on IE Sports Radio, the direct feed for all that is sports, and I will update you on all that's black and gold. Have you telling your Pittsburgh fans and friends what's up with Pittsburgh sports. Tune in Tuesday with me, Ralph Calise, the Injury Report on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Let's go!
Of course, welcome back to our final segment here on New York State of Sports and IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Ricky K back with you, and we'll talk some soccer as we actually have some locals still going, as we had the Hudson River Derby this weekend at Citi Field, and the Red Bulls advancing to their first Eastern Conference final since 2018. They take a 2-0 win over NYCFC, the 7 seed beating the 6 seed. And it was really all about the first half. Felipe Caraballo scores early in this game, and then a couple minutes later off a corner, Dante Van Zier scores. And you look at the Red Bulls as a team, it's really a bit different because of their designated players. When you look at Caraballo, Van Zier, Emil Forsberg, the difference is when those guys are performing, it's a different team. When we saw the Red Bulls early this year getting draws early and late in the season to kind of keep them in the playoff race, they're starting to find that Carlos Coronel in net was really good, had a clean sheet. He's had 7 of those in his career against NYCFC. And Sandro Schwartz has done a good job with this group. I mean, considering that they were at the bottom of the playoff teams in the Eastern Conference, in a playoff that has been wide open for them. I mean, you look at the top seeds that have been knocked out of MLS Cup. The LAFC got knocked out by the Sounders, and now their next game Saturday in the Eastern Conference Finals against Orlando FC. Orlando got a 1-0 win yesterday over Atlanta. These two teams played earlier this year twice. They've not played since June, so these are different teams. April, they had a draw And then in June, they won 1-0 in Harrison, New Jersey at Red Bull Arena in the 38th minute, a goal by John Tolkien. Now, there will be a viewing party. I think there's a viewing party from what I saw from the Red Bulls out in Hoboken I think at Mulligan's, I believe, is the place. So if you're looking for a fun soccer atmosphere to watch this important game, I think it's Seattle Sounders and LA Galaxy in the West. Regardless if the Red Bulls win, they're going to go on the road for MLS Cup. But for a franchise that has gotten to this point but is still looking for a win, this is their golden opportunity here. I mean, this is a really good matchup. They're clicking at the right time. And a tough one for Nick Cushing's club that just was finding opportunities in the second half. They just could not score. And we said that. A team that was really good defensively, but needed that attacking third when they're not getting goals to Maxi Morales and Santi Rodriguez. They just could not find a way to score, and that was really their issue in the end in this one. So a tough way for NYCFC's season to end, and a magical run for them comes to a close. The Red Bulls' magic carpet ride continues. Moving over to college football, rough one for Army this week, and I didn't think they would get blown out, and, well, they did. Notre Dame got out to a quick 14-0 lead. Army had a blocked punt that led to a Notre Dame touchdown. Even when Army got that goal line stand down 14-7 in the second quarter, they just could not sustain it. And when you get behind 2 scores with this offense, the way it's designed, you're not going to come back. Bryson Daly, just 26 yards passing on 8 attempts, did rush for 2 touchdowns. He's had 8 games with multi-touchdown. Well, I think it's 800-yard rushing games. So he's had a really good year, 39 carries for the quarterback. But besides him, Kanye Udo was held in check, and that's usually a good 1-2 combo. Riley Leonard had 148 yards, only threw the ball 13 times because Notre Dame ran for 275 yards with 4 different players. The Irish right now, to me, are a top 5 football team. They're going to make the playoff if they beat USC this weekend. No shame for Army to lose this one. And now they will take on UTSA this week at home, Senior Day. Army is a 7-point favorite. That game, in the grand scheme of things, doesn't mean so much because Army's already in the American Conference Championship game a week from now against Tulane. They probably aren't going to get the Group of 5 bid. It's most likely going to be Boise State. Boise State's been playing with their fire a little bit. They had a tough one at Wyoming, but they found a way to win. The atmosphere is good at Yankee Stadium, though, and for Army, just you wanted to see them at least maybe take the game into the second half, be a little bit more competitive, and they could not do that, which led to the loss. But still a chance to accomplish all the goals they're looking to accomplish. And, of course, they have the Navy game as well coming up in a couple of weeks. Rutgers, not a good week if you're a Rutgers fan in both football or basketball. We'll start with football. Rutgers is taking on Illinois. Illinois, a ranked football team, 25th in the country. And it was a good back-and-forth game in the fourth quarter. And Rutgers, at that point, they were down 6. Luke Meyer had a 30-yard run for a score. Then Kalik Manis hits Kamanangai for a 13-yard touchdown with a minute to go. Rutgers has the 1-point lead. Illinois at the end tries the 58-yard field goal. They miss it. But Greg Schiano called timeout, trying to ice the kicker. Brett Bielema fires back on 4th and 13, says, I'm going to go for it. And there was a 40-yard touchdown. It's kind of similar to the play that the Commanders got against Dallas yesterday in regulation, where just nobody wants to tackle the guy. And Pat Bryant scores with 4 seconds left. Just a really bad loss for Rutgers. Greg Schiano, I was talking to a friend the other day. I was like, if they weren't bowl eligible yesterday, that's the kind of game that could get you fired. You can't lose a game like that, especially against a ranked team. Chance to really get that signature win for a year, which Rutgers doesn't really have. They're 6-5. Looks like they're probably going to be playing like Detroit in a bowl game later in December. The last game of the season is this Saturday at Michigan State. It's a 3:30 kick on FS1. Rutgers is the underdog in that one, but basically a pick 'em. But it's a tough way for Rutgers to lose in football. What was worse for them was basketball. They go on the road. They take on Kennesaw State. Kennesaw State never beaten a ranked team in its history. And Rutgers gets down 18 at the half. Now, they rallied back to make it a game. Dylan Harper had 21 points on 9 assists. Ace Bailey, 17 points. But Rutgers only got double-digit scoring from 3 different players. They made just 8 threes in this game. And they got out-rebounded by 19 on the glass. 46-27, the Owls out-rebounded them. Rutgers had a chance to win late. Could not get the job done. Ace Bailey turning it over. And that's a tough one for this team. Now, I wonder if they looked ahead because they have the big tournament this week in Vegas, the Players Era Festival. But you're a ranked team. You can't lose games like that. And give them credit for at least going on the road. That's a first true road test for Rutgers. But no, there's no benefit for Rutgers to go on the road and win. But this week, Tuesday, 10:30 on TBS in Vegas, the Players Era Festival, Rutgers will take on Notre Dame. Notre Dame beat Georgetown earlier this month, but lost to Elon over the week. So you know how this game's going to go. And then they will play Alabama. Alabama's high-octane offense scores a lot of points. Nate Oates has a good offensive system. They'll give up their fair share of points, but they're going to score. That game Wednesday night at 10 o'clock. And then Rutgers will finish up there before they begin Big Ten play in December. They take on Ohio State. So rough one for Rutgers in that one, both on the football and basketball side. Meanwhile, for Syracuse, they beat Connecticut 31-24. Kyle McCord, another great game for him, and he ends up breaking the single-season passing record for Syracuse. He has been one of the better transfer additions for any team in college football. I mean, you think about how he's changed Syracuse in terms of Fran Brown. His first year is going to have a shot at maybe 10 wins and a bowl game, and a really legit bowl game at that. Really good effort from him. He was 37-47 for 470, 2 touchdowns. And this Cuse offense has so many different playmakers. Jackson Meeks had 7 catches for 110. Aronde Gadsden is the second. 11 catches for 103 in the score. We've seen Darrell Gill Jr. have a great game the other day. 9 catches for 177. This is a guy with 26 catches the entire season. And he's making plays. And while Syracuse can't win the ACC, they've got a shot to play spoiler this weekend. They will take on Miami. That's Saturday at 3:30 on ESPN. Cuse are a 10.5-point underdog. If Syracuse wins, Miami doesn't go to the ACC championship. Instead, Clemson goes to face SMU. And if we look at this Miami team, they're 10-1, yes. They have the loss to Georgia Tech, but defensively, they've struggled. They gave up 38 to Cal, 45 to Louisville, 31 to Duke. They lost to Georgia Tech. They have 34 to Virginia Tech. Cam Ward's going to score, but Kyle McCord is going to score right back. This is going to, if you want offense, this is a high-octane offensive game. The over-under right now is at like 68 for this kind of a game. I think McCord can keep his own. We've seen Syracuse pull off upsets this year. We saw it in week 2 against Georgia Tech when they were ranked at home. They pulled the upset. This would be a huge statement win for Fran Brown to get maybe 9 wins in the year, go to the bowl game with a chance to get 10 in his first season. And he's not going to win ACC Coach of the Year because Rhett Lashley at SMU is going to win it. But this is a program-defining win if Syracuse can get it. And they've got a great shot. Again, Miami is vulnerable. Despite Cam Ward having a Heisman caliber year, they are vulnerable on defense. So this game, I think, could really honestly come down to who has the ball last. I want to give some shout out to some other local teams in the area. Shout out to Columbia football. They picked up a nice win this week. And with that win, they clinched their first Ivy League title since 1961. They go undefeated in the league. Team that usually you see Yale win it, you see Harvard win it, but Columbia getting it done. Congrats to them. And SUNY Cortland gets its playoff run started this weekend. They will take on Endicott, who won their first round game in the Division III tournament. Cortland, of course, one of the more consistent teams in that division. So we'll see how they do in terms of their performances. So be sure to check that out. As Larry says, go Cortland, #Dragon Rising. SUNY Cortland playing well as they're down to the final 8 in the FCS. There are no playoffs, by the way, for Columbia. I was looking, hoping that they would get in. There is no Division II or FCS postseason for Columbia, but want to give them a shout out. Just heck of a run from them. Lastly, just a rough week for St. John's. And as an alum, I was very disappointed by their performance in Bahamas this week. They were out at the Baha Mar tournament, took on Baylor, and they were dominant in the first half. Like they were finding the top 25. They were ranked. They were putting it to Baylor. They were basically dominating every minute. And then they stopped playing basketball in the second half. And they not only had the 18-point lead, they then led by 5 in double overtime with 10 seconds left. Baylor hits a 3. Zubi Ejiofor gets fouled. They go to the monitor, which Rick Pitino said afterwards. I don't know why they went to the monitor for. They basically iced the free throw shooter. Ejiofor missed both. And Jeremy Roach came down, hit a three-pointer at the buzzer to win. You could argue that the clock operator was a little slow because people look back when RJ Lewis touched the ball, the clock never started, and that should have been – that shot might not have counted if that happened. But you can't blame the clock operator and the refs when Rick Pitino's team had an 18-point lead, a chance to really make a statement and get a win. They did not get it. They then beat Virginia in the third-place game, dominated the Cavaliers, one of the better performances they've had. And it got some optimism, like, hey, we lost to Baylor. We're competitive, though. Took them to double overtime. There's a different team. Then yesterday happened. It took on Georgia in Atlantis. Georgia lost the day before to Marquette. And St. John's just forgot how to shoot the ball. They were 2 for 19 from 3, 31% shooting. They forced 24 turnovers and still lost. Now, who knows what kind of game that'll look like? Who knows what Georgia will be at the end of the year, if that'll be a bad loss or not. But now if you're St. John's, you have zero margin for error in the non-conference. They're not going to get that signature win they hope for. Now they've got a weird-looking loss on the resume. Their only chance to get any kind of win is Kansas State, which is next week at Carnesecca. But Kansas State lost to Liberty last night, so that kind of dinged their hopes there. They're basically going to have to do damage in the conference and hope that they don't stub their toe anymore out of the league. And I give St. John's credit, a guy like Zubi Ejiofor, who had that rough moment. The fans were cheering for him, gave him a standing ovation the next game, and he has looked dominant since. He was clutch of the free throw line yesterday. He had 20-plus points, was a force in the paint. Their guards, though, were terrible yesterday. I mean, Devion Smith, who knows if he's got some injury he's dealing with. He did not have some good decisions down the stretch. And Kadary Richmond, and you never like to criticize college athletes, but he's making a lot of money from the NIL. He has not looked like the number one transfer player in the country. He's making turnovers, not good passes. His shooting right now has not been very good at all. I mean, you look at his play yesterday against Georgia, he was not very good. He was 1 of 8 shooting, just 3 points, 4 rebounds, 2 assists. This is a guy that's going to get stuff done in all facets of the game. He's not going to be that 20-point instant offensive scorer. But at the same time, he's got to put up better performances than that. And he had the shot to get to double overtime against Baylor. It was him who hit the layup there. But their guard play, I mean, RJ Lewis got into foul trouble. There just was not a lot there from Kadary Richmond, and they need a lot more from this guy if they're going to make the run they need to go on. So St. John's next game will be Saturday against Harvard. That game is on Peacock. They're back home. They get a week off after the Atlantis trip, and then they'll play Kansas State a week from Saturday. Seton Hall out at Feast Week. They were in the Charleston Classic. They finished in third place. They picked up wins over Florida Atlantic, was the third place game. They lost to Vanderbilt. But all things considering, Rasheed Holloway, after they lost to Foreman Hofstra, to get 2 wins over VCU and FAU is a good sign. They will play Monmouth, who's 0-8. That game is Saturday at noon on FS2. Seton Hall's next big opponent will be in that Big 12 Big East battle a week from Sunday against Oklahoma State. So that should be a fun game for Shaheen Holloway's bunch, as they hopefully will get some more wins. They play. So Seton Hall's next 2 opponents, by the way, are combined 0-14. Monmouth is 0-8, and JIT is 0-6. Shout out locally also to, we always like to look at the teams that get those like wins in those bye games. Long Island Brooklyn, I believe, picked up a win over the weekend. They took on, I think it was Charlotte. Yep, it took on Charlotte, who was in the American. The Sharks won 79-76. Malachi Davis, 31 points in that one. So LIU getting a nice win after they had a rough season, I believe, last year. So they found a way to get it done. So in the final segment here, again, happy Thanksgiving to all of you guys out there. Very thankful for all the people that are listening to the show each and every week, that follow us on X, and we'll throw up the Twitter account one more time at NY State Sports IE. It's where you can follow me. We'll follow the show on X, and you can follow me on X at Ricanator555. I love coming on this show every week, talking some New York sports, even though the New York sports haven't been great over the last few weeks. We've had in this last year the Knicks making a run, the Rangers making a run, the Yankees getting to the World Series, the Liberty winning a WNBA championship. There's been so much to talk about, and that's what I think what I love about talking New York, New Jersey sports with you guys. Is just there's not a boring week for me on the show. There never is. I always can find stuff to talk about with all of you, and I think that's what makes all of this very special. And I couldn't do it without you guys. I'm thankful to Larry for bringing me onto the network. Glad I found it. It has been so much fun, and I enjoy interacting with all the members of our IE Sports Radio family. Very thankful to be a part of that family. So as we wrap up episode 66, again, WFAN used to be Sports Radio 66, and there's going to be a lot of angry Giants and Jet fans out there trying to figure out what's the future of this team. Trying to figure their teams. Daniel Jones is gone. You can't blame him anymore in the Giants. John Mara's got to ask himself, is it worth trying to keep stability if there's no stability there to begin with? That's going to be something he's got to figure out with the futures of Brian Daboll and Joe Schoen. Because personally for me, I think they both got to go. Because if you draft the quarterback and you have Joe Schoen there, GM, you've automatically given 2-3 years to build it. I don't think he's deserved that. We'll see. So Giants will play on Thanksgiving. Hopefully they don't embarrass themselves too much against Cooper Rush. Jets against Seattle. Maybe the Jets stay competitive. We'll see. Coming up later today, 5 p.m. Eastern. As Larry points out, Carolina Sports Update. Neil Curtis, his second show. Got some good stuff, probably with Cooper Flagg and Duke beating Arizona. And talk about the Panthers' effort against the Chiefs. That comes up later today, so support that show as well. We'll see what the Knicks and Nets do this week. We'll see if there's any update in the Juan Soto watch. Good luck to the Red Bulls this week as they try to clinch a berth in the MLS Cup final and continue their magical run. Really good game, as I said. That college football game of the week, as much as we talk about the SEC and Texas A&M and all those things, the game of the week might just be in the Carrier Dome. Because I think if you want touchdowns and you want to see points, just watch Miami-Syracuse, because the battle between Cam Ward and Kyle McCord is going to be a whole lot of fun. You're going to want to watch that. Again, happy Thanksgiving to all of you out there. Stay safe, safe travels, enjoy the time with your loved ones. It should be a lot of fun. So from all of us here at IE Sports Radio, I'm Rick McKay saying enjoy your week, enjoy the sports. I'll see you back here next week for the first show in December. I can't believe we're already almost a year in. See you then, everybody.